Good morning, and welcome to another edition of Mark's Inspiration. Glad you could join me here today as always. You're going to want to stay tuned for this one because I'm going to show you who has the lowest divorce rate in the world and why. We're going to discuss why and why you shouldn't get married in the U.S., or at least I advise against it. With a 50% divorce rate, 70% of that is initiated by the woman. What do you have to gain? And I believe in marriage, I do. I've been married 4 times and unfortunately divorced 4 times because it's so easy to get a divorce here. It doesn't matter if you want the marriage to work or if you want your family to stay together. If she decides that she doesn't want it anymore for whatever reason, she just leaves. There's what we call no-fault divorce. It doesn't matter if she's having an adulterous affair, if she's spending all the money, if she's an alcoholic, if she's a drug addict. It doesn't make any difference. The marriage contract is ludicrous. It's not really a contract at all. I like to say it's like Rollo Tomassi says, it's a unconscionable contract. No one, realizing what it really is, would sign that thing and agree to it. We still have this belief that it means what it meant 100 years ago or 500 years ago. Not at all. It benefits the women completely and doesn't benefit the man. The woman has everything to gain and the man has everything to lose. I have 5 sons, ages 13 to 21. I advise them not to marry. And I have a daughter who's 15. I advise her to marry. She will benefit greatly either way, if they stay together, if they don't stay together. I hope they do, but if they don't, she'll be okay. My sons, on the other hand, as you know, if they get married and have kids and they divorce, they will be paying for those kids until they're 21 years old with little rights to see them or any rights to say how they're raised or what happens to them, or really they have no rights whatsoever. You think you do, but you don't. Now let's proceed. Who has the lowest divorce rate in the world? Guatemala. And I lived there for 6 years. Let me tell you why they have a low divorce rate. One of the reasons is they believe in staying married because women cannot make it there without the men. They don't have the social structure set up to where a woman can survive there without a man. In that country, they don't have food pantries. And if they do, I never seen any. They may have some now. I never saw any. They may have some now. But the people there that are hungry are skinny. You can tell they're hungry. It's a very impoverished country where the women still need men to survive. And the women and the children still need men to survive. Unlike the U.S., where there's an illusion that women and children don't need men to survive. The reason that illusion exists is because men set up structures and systems to support women without husbands and to support children without fathers. These structures and systems are held together by men. They're set up by men. Now, am I saying this to belittle women? No, I'm not. We each have our place. And when we get out of place, we have problems. And thus we have the breakdown of the family here in the U.S. And the breakdown of the family is but the beginning of the breakdown of the country, of the government. And I think we can see that very profoundly here in the U.S. today, as the corruption in the government is so blatant and so profound that it's almost laughable that they can do what they do and there's no repercussions. It's just incredible to me as compared to when I was younger. And the media is another example, but that's another video. Okay, so in Guatemala, they have 0.4 divorces per 1,000 people. 0.4. And also in countries like that, Women marry men that can take care of them and support them. In India, they have a less than 1% divorce rate. In India, there are arranged marriages. Did you know that before about 150 years ago, marriage was not for love, for romantic love? They married for practical reasons. It's only in the last 100 to 150 years that we started marrying for love, that you have to be in love to get married. My last marriage was to a girl from Guatemala. I made it 12 years. But I had brought her here to the States, and she learned the ways of American women, how to manipulate the system, and thus that marriage ended also. But we did make it 12 years. So that was the best marriage I had. Now, I did not marry her because I loved her. I married her because I wanted to have 15 kids. She was young, and I married her for practical reasons. We did not have sex until we were married. And actually, we went pretty well for a long time. But after 6 or 7 years up here, she started getting, let's say, Americanized. And thus, that started the end of that marriage. With her leaving, taking the kids, manipulating the system, and trying to squeeze all the money out of me she could get. But fortunately for me, things didn't end well for her. I ended up with the kids here in the U.S., and she's been gone for 11 years back at her country. So I was very, very fortunate, because I guarantee you it's much more economic to raise my kids by myself than it is to pay her child support. And that's to say nothing about the emotional distress that you go through because you want to see your kids or who she's living with or what's going on in that household. That is very traumatic also. Can be very traumatic. So you men need to think about this. You need to probably get the idea out of your head of marrying someone because you're so in love, this romantic infatuation of love. Real love begins about 6 months or a year after the infatuation dies. That's when real love begins. And if you don't have a woman that you married for practical reasons, guess what? All that fire, all that flame, all that infatuation wears off, and you're stuck with a woman, if you didn't vet her properly, that cannot add to your life. She is not an asset, she is a liability. We shudder when we think of arranged marriages or marrying someone we're not in love with. We've been so programmed to believe that you have to be in love with the person you marry that probably me even sitting here talking about it to you sounds strange or weird or what's wrong with that guy. But for thousands of years, men and women did not cohabitate together or marry for love. They married for practical reasons. The woman married a man that could provide and protect her, and the man married the woman who could give him children and raise them up, who was strong enough to take care of her responsibilities in the home. And we have gotten away from that. And thus, what do we see here in the West, in the U.S.? 50% divorce rates, 70% initiated by the woman. Now, a lot of you young guys don't realize it, but when you marry a woman and you have a child with her, she has all the power in the relationship, legally, because the court system is so involved, at least here in the U.S., and also in some states, I didn't know this till about a year ago, like Florida, if you're married for 10 years, you have to pay her lifetime alimony, according to what you have made. And now if that's like child support, this is something most of you probably don't know either. Child support isn't calculated by how much it costs to raise the kid, but it's calculated by how much you make. So let's say when you divorce your wife, you're making $50,000 a year. That child support will be calculated by that number. Let's say in 2 years you raise your income up to $100,000. She can take you back and raise that child support to a level equivalent to $100,000 of earning per year. Next year you get up to $200,000, $300,000, $500,000. She can raise it every time, and I'll guarantee you she will, because she feels like she deserves that. And you would say, well, my kids deserve that. Do they? You will be seen, and I'm sure they do, but the point I'm making is you will be seeing your kids every other weekend and maybe for 2 or 3 weeks in the summer, if she lets you see them. And what do I mean by that? If you go to the house to pick your kids up and she's not there, she's an hour late getting back, or maybe she didn't even show up that night, there's very little you can do about it. Now, you can take her to court, but the judge will not do much to her. He may slap her on the wrist. He may not do anything. He doesn't have to do anything. But if you don't pay child support, they will throw you in jail. And a lot of times women will use children to hurt you or to manipulate you because they know they can. And that's why many fathers that they call deadbeat fathers just leave. They finally just give up. They get wore out. They can't accomplish anything. They can't move ahead because she's constantly pulling them down, especially if her life isn't as grand as she thought it was when she divorced you. Here's another point too. Did you know that, at least in our state and many of the other states, that if you divorce your wife or she divorces you, either way, you have to pay for her lawyer. So you have to pay for her lawyer to try to get as much out of you as she can. Probably a lot of you didn't know that. Before you get married, not that you should be negative about marriage, but you need to look at the realistic statistics of it. 50% of your marriages are going to end in a divorce. So you got a coin flip here. You can flip a coin. That's another reason you need to back up and think about who you're marrying. Why are you marrying her? Excuse me. What? I'm making a video, okay? All right, so a little interruption there. I'm back. Why are you marrying her? Are you marrying her because you're infatuated with her? Because you have a lust for her so powerful that you can't stay away from her? I guarantee you that's going to fade after a while. My sons ask me, what will I do? How am I going to have kids? I don't want to marry, and I don't blame them. I don't really have the answer for that. But of course, everyone wants to, or at least most men want to reproduce, and they want their lineage to continue on. In the U.S., I don't know what the answer for that is. The only thing I can think of is if you can raise your status, get your income high enough to where you can travel out of the country, you can go to a country where women still respect men, women still need men, and find someone there and have children. And you will have to leave them there, and you can go and visit them every so often. I know that this sounds like a far-fetched plan, but as long as that woman can never come to the U.S., you're okay. It's not the best way to raise kids, of course, but the alternative is to have children here in the U.S. and take a chance on her taking them, and you won't be seeing them much either. And that can turn into a real nightmare. Many men have lost everything in those situations. And if you think you're going to get the kids, what a woman will do as a last resort, and many women do this, and there are people sitting in jail for this at the very moment, they will accuse you of molesting or abusing the kids, and they will get the kids to say that it happened. And it's very easy for them to do. It happened to me. Fortunately, I was able to prove my innocence, but there are many people who weren't able to do that, who lost their kids forever and who are sitting in jail. These are all things that really happen. And I'm telling you this to let you know that you need to really research what you're getting yourself into when you decide to marry. As I said, I believe in marriage. I think it's a good idea. It's the best possible way to raise kids, a man and a woman together, a family unit. I got a dog barking here. First it was my kid interrupting me, and now it's my dog. Okay, well, I guess it's time to stop because everybody keeps getting in the way. Okay, so if you'd like to get my help personally, you can contact me at marksinspirationalguidance@gmail.com. We'll hit that like button and subscribe. Leave a comment in the comment section. And if you feel this video has been of value to you, you can hit the donate button at the PayPal or Cash App and donate whatever you feel the value was worth to you. Share it with a friend. And thank you from our 1,352 subscribers. You are the reason I'm here. Take care.